It's always been said that where there's a need, there's the Salvation Army.
And I don't think there's any bigger issue that confronts Australia today than the issue of asylum seekers. And it causes a lot of debate in Australia. It leads to people having a wide variety of views, but at the kernel of that issue are human beings who are on a journey, they are suffering, they are vulnerable, and it is only right that the Salvation Army be at the centre of that issue.
The Salvation Army prioritises its work with marginalised and disadvantaged people, and it struck me that the refugees and the asylum seekers who suddenly became called the boat people were one of the most marginalised and despised groups in our community.
The story in the scripture that helps us in our response is of the Good Samaritan, someone fallen by the way, someone in pain, someone who needs healing.
The Salvation Army's role in the centre is to provide adult welfare services. We do education, we provide recreational services, we manage things that are important to the asylum seekers like communications, internet, phone calls so they can make contact with family. Those day-to-day practical things that make life a little bit more easier for them.
Our role is to respond as Christ would, to respond so that our faith has a very practical and tangible expression to it.
The other thing that we do is obviously advocate for better conditions through, talking to the government, talking about little changes, improving the facilities that are on the centre, improving the quality of food, things like that we can make a difference, that we can see and we can make a difference in a day-to-day thing to make people's lives a little bit better.
I think of Jesus being hunted down, persecuted, very similar to the asylum seeker who comes to Australia.
I've worked in the social work of the Salvation Army for a long period of time. I've dealt with all types of human need. I have to say that I've never seen despair and hopelessness and pain as much as I've seen in this area. And sitting with people in that space and working with them has been the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
The men and women that are part of the regional processing centres, they are people who have experienced so much of the worst that humanity and this world's evil can unleash on other human beings.
It is an interesting place for the Salvation Army to be, working in the offshore processing centres on Nauru and Manus Island, because in fact our policy says that we don't agree with these places. When you look at the response that the government can make to asylum seekers, the Salvation Army has always been strongly of the view that the best place that we can work with people, that we can help people, that we can process people is actually within Australia's borders itself. It's really important to state so that the Australian public understands that no money given in donations is used for the Salvation Army's offshore programs or mission. The whole program, our welfare services, our staffing, our flights to and from the island are all provided and fully funded by the Australian government.
The Salvation Army has a role by virtue of the fact that God calls us to care. So we need to respond in a way that says to that man, to that woman, to those children who are in pain, we will be there. We will support them.
And also Jesus said, if you give a cup of cold water, if you give some clothes, if you give some food, you do it as to me. And so in the asylum seeker, in the refugee, I see Jesus. I reckon if William Booth and Catherine Booth were around today, they'd be on Nauru and Manus Island. They would see these people as our people, people that we must serve. We must be there. These are our people.